Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 12, Devotional Service, text number 9. Translation report by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So, you can repeat the verse, Sanskrit, yes? Atat chittam samadhatum na shakshnushi mayi stiram abhyasa yogena tato mamichchaptum dhananjaya Atha, if therefore, Chittam, mind, Samadhatum, to fix, Na, not, Shaknoshi, you are able, Mai, upon me, Stiram, steadily, Abhyasa yogena, by the practice of devotional service. Tataha, then, mam, me, ichcha, desire, aptum, to get, dhananjaya, a winner of wealth, Arjuna. Okay. So, Krishna is speaking and he is answering questions. The whole Bhagavad Gita actually is questions and answers. So, the question in the beginning of the chapter is, Arjuna wants to know who is more perfect. There's different kinds of yogis and transcendentalists. So, who is more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? And Krishna will answer. And he, of course, says, if you think of me, my personal form, that's better. So, he already said that before, at the end of the 9th chapter, Manmana Bhava Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. So, 4 things Prabhupada always says, 4 things anybody can do. Very easy. Manmana, you think of me, fix your mind on me. Mad Bhakta, you become my devotee. Madhyaji, you worship me. And Namaskuru, you offer obeisances. So what's the difficulty? Even a child can do this. But it's not so easy. We know this because the mind is supposed to be fixed on Krishna. But the mind doesn't like to be fixed on Krishna. The mind likes to surf the internet and look at millions of different pages and things. And on Facebook, who likes me, who doesn't like me? Do I like this? Do I follow this or that? So we follow and like so many things, not Krishna. Right? Yes? No? Yes? Thank you, you're honest at least. So, just before this verse, he said, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me, thus you will live in me always without a doubt. And as he explained before in the 8th chapter, if we are able to do that, then when the time comes to change body, and the mind will be fixed on Krishna, problem solved. No more body, will go to Krishna. Yati, will go to me, asankshaya, without any doubt, Krishna says. So, in this verse, he will say now, my dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, which is our case more or less, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Because this other part, or let's say the other side, when we just fix the mind on Krishna, it means one already has attachment for Krishna. There is some degree, more or less, of love of Krishna. So therefore the mind is attracted to Krishna and can be fixed on Krishna. So if you cannot do this, which I said generally, if we are honest, we have to admit, no, I cannot fix my mind. And maybe sometimes I can think, but not so much. So then if you cannot, because it says, if you cannot fix without deviation, that is a high standard. Huh? You don't think of who follows me and what I like on Facebook. Unless it's maybe Krishna is on Facebook. It could be. So if we cannot do this, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga, and that's generally what we all do, or we should do, or we try to do, right? That is called Vaidhi Bhakti. We perform service, but according to certain rules, not spontaneously. The goal will be, like anything which is connected to a loving relationship, it should be spontaneous, not some rule. Even between husband and wife, the wife will serve, for example, by cooking or by something else, and the husband will protect and provide the necessities, and they do it because of some rule, not because I love you. I have to do it because there's a rule, I have to do it, otherwise I wouldn't do it. So that's not so advanced, huh? It's not such a high level relationship. So with Krishna it's basically the same. He's a person and we are persons, and we should have a spontaneous relationship, and if it's not there, then still the recommendation is still you act in that relationship but under rules and regulations, which means the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga. So, Prabhupada explains in the purport. In this verse, two different processes of Bhakti-yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. So that we already said, not really for us yet, hopefully sometime in the future. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. And for the second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. So it's a process that one follows, and in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami explains this. It's the science of Bhakti-yoga, and there all these different rules and regulations are explained, and if one does it, then in time one will be elevated to the next higher stage. Bhakti-yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti-yoga, these senses can become purified. And in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. So this refers to the verse how does it begin? I just forgot. And then Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate. What is Bhakti? Tat Paratvena Nirmalam. So it means, yes, now the senses are impure. There are so many upadis. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam. Yes, we should get rid of all the upadis. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam. Tapparatvena nirmalam. One becomes purified. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here. And then it is possible Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. One can engage in devotional service to the actually the Isha of the Rishikas. Rishikesh is the owner of the senses. He is the Lord of the senses, and our senses are part of his senses. So they should be engaged in the service, and that is bhakti. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. It's by obligation. I simply serve to get some money. That's generally the situation. And the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So it's a business transaction. So there's no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kavuno. It's not coming from outside, it's already there in the heart. And there, love of God is manifested in different ways, but it is contaminated by material association. Now, the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. So therefore, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Uday. When one purifies the chitta, the consciousness, by Shravana Adi, by hearing, chanting, serving, the deity worship, and remembering and praying, and so many different processes, 9 processes, then yes, Shuddha Chitte, the mind, which also is many times described as chitta, that becomes purified, and then this Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, Karayo Adoi, it rises like the sun in the morning. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone to rise to the level of love of God, and then ensure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti-yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of the spiritual master will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. So this is very good news. We can be sure. I mean, Prabhupada assures it. And why does he assure it? Because Krishna assures it also many times in Bhagavad Gita. If you do this and this and this, then how many times he says, surely you will come to me. So many verses are there. So it's a science. And it's not that it will only work, well, you are in India, so you may say, oh, we are very lucky, Krishna. This is Krishna's place, his embassy in the material world, so we are very close. Well, yes and no. Sometimes one is close and one is actually far away. And those who may be very far away, they may be closer. So that's not any material circumstance, does have anything to do with the development of Krishna consciousness. It's simply here, practicing the rules and regulations of Bhakti-yoga under the guidance of a devotee who's expert in this. And then it's sure. Like anything else we study. Here it's very prominent to study IT, right? Or technology. Technology, yes. We have so many institutes for technology, and they're building more and more. How many are we being built on the road to Vrindavan? You can see every 100 meters there's a new building coming out. Institute of Technology, right? So you want to study this, then yes, you have to, there's a process. You get some expert, supposedly expert technologist who has mastered the science of technology, and he can teach you. So the same is with Bhakti-yoga. There's some who are masters in Bhakti-yoga who have mastered the science by practicing it, also under the guidance of another master, that's Guru Parampara system. And if we accept guidance from somebody who is expert, then we can, if we practice according to the directions, then it's sure we come to the same result. Therefore it's called scientific. If you study technology and all the different books that are presented with all the information, and you memorize and you put it into practice, then you become expert. There's no doubt about it. And it applies to anything, whether you study medicine or to become a lawyer or even just something as simple as cooking. Apparently simple. It's not so simple. There are different categories of experts. So, some have 5 stars. The big chefs. Why do they have 5 stars? Because they studied it very precisely, and when they cook something, then the taste is perfect. And somebody who is a newcomer, he may throw also the same ingredients actually. And the ladies know this better than anybody. The mother tries to teach the daughter how to cook, and the daughter has no interest because, I'm right now on Facebook. Don't ask me to cook. But yes, you have to cook because, it's part of a little bit of our dharma to be cooking, Otherwise, who will eat? How they will eat? Your father is in the Institute of Technology, so he's very busy with technology that doesn't give us anything to eat. So actually, they depend on us. We have to prepare some nice prasadam. So to do that, there's recipes. If you follow the recipe, generally it turns out okay, isn't it? If you think, why do I have to put 2 teaspoons of this? Actually 2, I don't like the number 2. I love 5. I mean like Panchatattva. So I put 5 teaspoons of salt instead of 2. Oh my God. Then it's presented and everybody goes, oh no, what did you do? Or maybe you made a mistake. Instead of salt, you put sugar. Oh my, that happens, right? You made the halava and you just, because it's white crystals and looks very similar, you didn't test it. So then you have salty halava. Maybe it's okay, you have upma. But anyway, we know, everything has a certain process. And if you want to have it perfect, you better follow the process under even the guidance. Best is studying under the guidance of an expert cook. Like Prabhupada said, anybody can learn cooking just by observing a cook. You observe how they do. Maybe you take a note, how the quantities. But that's all. If you have a sharp memory, you can even remember. But it's not so difficult. But there's a science, and if you follow the example of somebody who's expert, you get the same result. So this applies also to Bhakti-yoga. Same thing, same principle. And it's not only reserved for a very few special people or souls, great saints and everybody else. This is not possible. No, it's meant for everybody. And because everybody is part and parcel of Krishna. There's no exception. We all have a relationship with Krishna. Therefore Krishna is speaking. And he says, well, you can do this and you can do that. He's giving instructions what to do. And it's not only meant for Arjuna, obviously. That's why Bhagavad Gita is still there. It's not just, 5,000 years ago and Arjuna took the instructions and didn't give it to anybody else. No, it's meant for all of us. So therefore this process, yes, it's applicable to everybody. And we simply have to follow. That's all we have to do. And as Krishna says, it's a very good thing to know that maybe now we cannot fix the mind, right? The mind is agitated with so many other things. But, he says, if you follow this process, even though it's under certain rules, and it's not spontaneous, but then you will develop the desire to attain me. Because, as Prabhupada says here, this is a process of purification. That's all. So if the senses and the mind become purified, then the attraction, the attachment, or the desire to attain Krishna will manifest. Therefore this verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema, love of Krishna, we can say attachment for Krishna, or thinking of Krishna all the time, being Krishna conscious. It's all synonymous. It's Nitya Siddha, it's eternally perfect in the heart. So then, yes, we may wonder, so why can't I perceive it if it's there in a perfect condition? Well, it's just covered, that's all it is. It's all just covered. Like, Chetodarpana Marjanam, we have this very nice example of the mirror, and we all can, repeat the experiment. We can cover the mirror if it's not already covered because we didn't clean. But we can cover it with some substance, not just a little dust. A little dust is not sufficient. Just really a coat of dirt. Then it's like if there's no mirror at all, it's just a piece of flat dirt, basically. But underneath, there is the mirror. So you just have to start to take away the coat of dirt. And therefore the example is so good. Then even before all the dirt is gone, as soon as there's a certain amount gone, then already you can see something, right? You can perceive in the beginning maybe just the form of your head, let's say. So, but something is there. If you take away more dirt, then, well, now you can see more details. And if it's completely clear, well, sometimes you don't know which is which is the real one, the one in the mirror or the one outside the mirror, because, perfect mirror is looks exactly the same. So the heart is like that. It's now covered, therefore this love of Krishna, the attachment for Krishna, it's there, but it's not visible. So to the degree that this covering is taken away, then Korya Odoy, it's like in the morning the sun comes up, and to the degree it's rising, things become clear and light is everywhere. Now it's dark. So tomorrow morning you can watch. Maybe it's so much fog that even though the sun may rise, it's not really perceivable. And that's another good example. Sometimes there may be additionally fog. So the sun may be there, but we can't really perceive it because of fog. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Harinam Chintamani, he compares different types of ignorance to fog. If we are ignorant about our own self, we don't know who we are. We think I'm the body, there's no soul, or something like that. Or we may be ignorant about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Soul. We have no knowledge, we don't know. The holy name, we don't know. So there's avidya. So this ignorance is compared to fog. And if there's fog, you don't really know what's going on, where you are, and sometimes if there's so much fog, you don't move. Like, those who have a car, sometimes you may have this experience. The fog becomes so dense, you stop, because it's too dangerous. I don't know 1 meter ahead what's there. There may be another car coming, and then we crash. So I better stop and wait for the fog to go away. Or you may have some special lights, but even that is not really working. So the fog has to be dissipated. If we now transfer the analogy to our situation in the material world, our consciousness, we can't have a foggy consciousness. That's not very helpful to become Krishna conscious. So the fog has to be driven away. And because it's ignorance, what drives the fog away? Knowledge. So therefore we have to hear. Shravanadi, Shulachitta. The fog becomes clear, the consciousness becomes clear to the degree that we hear from the right source, and then the fog just dissolves and things become, because the sun is there. Then we can see the sun in everything else. So this is Bhakti-yoga is like that. The heart now is covered. Nityasita Krishna Prema, the love of Krishna, although eternally present, it's covered, we cannot perceive it. So, yes, Cetodarpanamarjanam, we clean the mirror, we drive away the fog. And then even in the beginning, the sun starts to rise, it may not be completely brilliant in the sky, still darkness goes away. So this ignorance, deep ignorance that, completely materialistic consciousness, that will go away to the degree that we practice Bhakti-yoga, even not perfectly yet. We don't have to think, it's only all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. And many times Prabhupada gives this example. In this world, like if you study technology, unless at the end you pass the exam, or if you want to become a doctor, if you don't pass the exam, you cannot practice as a doctor. You can say, well, I've studied for 10 years, I've read all the books, but you don't pass the exam. So much endeavor is practically useless. Bhakti-yoga is not like that. You may not be 100% perfect yet, but whatever you have achieved, it's a permanent asset, and it will not diminish, and you can build on that, until perfection is reached. So, therefore, Swalpam, what is it? Swalpam, yes. Swalpam Dharmasya, 240 something. Let's see whether we can. Memory is getting worse and worse. What to do? Therefore, we have books. It's a good thing. Swalpam Apyasya Dharmasya Mahate Trayate Mahato Bayat. Yes, that's it. And here's the words. It's 240. Oh. Nehavikrama nashosti pratyavayo navidyate svalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayat. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. That's the thing. There's no loss. Whatever you can study and gain, it's a permanent gain. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Svalpam. It's not, you don't have to be very much advanced, a great scholar or anything. A little bit of bhakti you have developed, that will protect you. What is the greatest fear? To lose the human form of life, to become a dog, or crow, or lizard, or fly on the wall, or whatever, or just a plant standing somewhere. So, then when developing of Krishna consciousness will be very difficult. So it's only possible as a human being. So even though one may not become perfect in one lifetime, if one is on this path, then practically it's guaranteed one will have another chance next life. But we should not wait for that. Best is now to, finish the business, practice sincerely, and then even in just one lifetime, one can come to this stage of desiring or keep developing a desire to attain Krishna, and that's the perfection of life. So, do you agree? You understand? Any doubts? Any questions? Yes.
In the pursuit of sadhana, we often come across with procrastination. How to overcome procrastination?
Well, it's a very widespread problem. But it's not even referring to only spiritual situation. Even in material life, it's a tendency procrastinate, not to do it now, maybe tomorrow. It's a kind of mental laziness, and depending on the country, I can tell you, it's a common saying in Spanish-speaking countries. There's a word in Spanish for tomorrow, mañana. So when something has to be done, mañana. We do it tomorrow. Now, and it's just, on one hand, it's laziness of the mind, and maybe an attachment to enjoy something else at this moment. So even, though it's very beneficial to do something, but it means I have to leave, like let's say, child is playing and now it's time for eating, time for lunch. No, I'm playing, But the mother knows, well, it's nice to play, but you have to eat, huh? So then we procrastinate the eating process. Maybe later, tomorrow. We don't say tomorrow, but later. And if it applies to devotional practices, maybe not now, I'm young and I want to do this and that. Maybe when I'm getting 50 or 60 years old, then I think about it. It's a very dangerous idea because you may not get to 50 or 60. Of course, we all think that, whatever may happen to somebody else will never happen to me. And I will become 90 years old, so I have plenty of time after 50 to practice Bhakti-yoga. So now just leave me alone. I'm on Facebook. I have no time to chant Hare Krishna. That happens. Unfortunately, it happens even to devotees. They may be 8 hours a day on Facebook. They have no time to have 2 hours for chanting the holy name. So that's unfortunate. If we have this habit of procrastination, that means we don't understand the urgency and the necessity of Krishna consciousness. So there's 2 ways to solve this. You suffer the kicks of Maya, or you become intelligent by hearing. Generally, we're not intelligent, so we suffer. And then if we're really stupid, although we suffer, we still don't get it. We don't change our habits. Then we suffer more. So there's no other way. It's described, I think, in Jaiva Dharma, like hammering and fire to purify gold. So the sufferings of the living entity are compared to hammering and fire. So if we have to get hammered and burned, that's probably what has to be done. But it can be avoided if we hear. We don't have to go through the direct experience. If somebody, like the example is given, I think, in the connection with Ajamil's story, a thief or somebody thinks about stealing, but he hears that if you steal, then you may get caught and put into prison, right? So it's an intelligent person then will say, oh no, then better I don't steal. Somebody who's less intelligent, he may hear, but he doesn't really believe it. But when he sees somebody else being caught and put into prison and maybe even beaten, depending what country you are in, then they think, really, oh, this is not a good idea. So then one who is even less intelligent, he hears, he sees somebody else, he doesn't get it, and then he steals, and he gets caught himself, and then gets beaten, and then he, suffers. And if you're really, really stupid, after hearing, after seeing somebody else, and after suffering yourself, you still do it again when you come out. So then what can be done? If you're not intelligent enough, then you just have to receive the pressure of material suffering to come to your understanding. Sometimes this is necessary. So therefore, but if one has a little bit of intelligence by hearing, and I think that was mentioned here, under the expert guidance of a spiritual master who knows things as they are, then this Krishna consciousness can be awakened. Now it's covered, as we said, it's sleeping in a sleeping dormant stage. So therefore, procrastination is a very typical way of life because we are covered and we are ignorant. So if we really understand the urgency and the importance of spiritual life, then this can be overcome. If we don't understand the importance of something, we'll say, oh, tomorrow. But if we know has to be done now, it's really urgent. If you understand the urgency, you don't do anything, whatever you do, you stop doing it. You may be eating. A very practical example. You are taking your lunch and a fire breaks out with your stove. You left some blanket on top and it's smelling. You may say, well, now I'm eating, don't bother me. That's crazy. It's really stupid. Then the whole house will burn down. So, I mean, generally we are not that stupid, right? So yes, you leave your meal, although you may want to continue because it's your favorite dish. Big pizza, it's hot, you're right in it, but now you have to go and burn out the fire, which means the pizza will get cold. But you do it because it's more important to put out the fire than to eat the pizza. So it's a question of importance and priority. If we don't understand the importance and it's not, then we say, not now, later. So therefore, what does Prahlad Maharaj say? Kaumaram achare pragyo dharman bhagavatamiha. Somebody who is intelligent, not a stupid fool. Somebody who is intelligent, he will practice Bhakti-yoga now. And he's speaking to his class friends who are 5 years old. Kaumaram pragya. That's even possible. Somebody may be even still a child. But if he's pragya, he's intelligent, he will start to practice yoga, Bhakti-yoga, right from childhood. So, hearing definitely will help. If we hear sufficiently, we may begin to understand the necessity and the importance of becoming Krishna conscious and get out of the material world. If we are under the influence of Maya, as we always say, she's telling you so many things and you say, oh yeah, I like this. Then somebody speaks about Krishna, tomorrow. Or maybe when I'm getting a little older, now I have other things to do. So that's your choice. So hearing is always good.
Well, thank you so much for your wonderful realization in a simple language.
It's coming from experience, If you get beaten enough, then at one point you say, okay, I got it.
My query is that if the Bhakti-yoga is the topmost in the yoga ladder, at the bottom it is Karma Kanda and above that it is
Jnana.
Above that is Karma Yoga.
Hmm.
The bottom is Karma, the fruitive activities, and above that is Karma Yoga. So the difference is that action with desire and action without desire. This is the difference.
Action with what?
Action with desire and
Desire.
Desire. Karma Kanda is action with desire.
Yes.
And, Karma Yoga is action without desire. Nishkam Karma. Is it the difference?
That depends on the level of Karma Yoga, because generally we understand Karma Yoga means you offer a part of the fruit, not everything. Nishkama means 100%. So therefore, this is the first of these verses where Krishna, if you cannot do this, then you do that. Very important part. So this is now the first recommendation. First thing is you think of me. You can't do this without deviation. Okay, then you follow the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga. Then now, you cannot do that. Then try to work for me, Karma Yoga. Work for me, That means, yes, you work, but at least part of the fruit you give for Krishna. You don't touch it. You sacrifice. You work for it. And so generally when we work for something, we want to have the benefit. We want to, don't just give it away. Unless you are, Bill Gates, and you have so much that if you give a few $1 billion, you don't even notice it. That's not really sacrifice even. It looks like, he has given $10 billion for the cancer research. So what? He has $100 billion in his bank account. So it's like giving one rupee if you have 100,000. What's the big deal to give 1 rupee if you have 100,000? Is it a big sacrifice? Even if you give 10, it's not a big sacrifice. Even if you give 1,000, it's not a big sacrifice. So it's all relative. So the idea is, you work for me, you do sacrifice. Therefore, generally, the idea of this 50% by Rupa Goswami, nowadays, of course, we have to apply it according to the situation. I would say 50% of profit after your expenses, whatever you then have to enjoy life, buying a new dress for your wife, or buying a new car or a new TV, 50% should go for Krishna consciousness. That, it's a sacrifice. You don't use it for your own enjoyment. That's karma yoga. Nishkama would mean, you give everything and then whatever Krishna provides, it's okay. That's a higher stage. Then if you cannot do this, then you are unable to work in that consciousness, then try to act giving up all results and try to be self-situated, which means, you understand who you are, and then of course the next, if you cannot do that, then you have to cultivate knowledge, because you're so ignorant, you don't even understand basic things, so you get some little knowledge, then, So we have to start somewhere. You have to see what is my situation. But generally, I think this words of today is definitely applicable. We cannot fix the mind without deviation, but at least under the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga, we accept, the process, then it's a matter of time we can do. That's why we're here, no? Or maybe you want to also learn how to become karma yogis. It's better than nothing. But we want to be bhakti yogis, which is better. Better, definitely better.
Guruji, how can we boost our purification?
How
can we boost our purification? Purification.
How can magnify?
Increase our purification.
Increase. I didn't get the word.
Boost.
What is that? Boost?
It's a boost.
Boost.
How to make it fast?
That's not boost, it's English also have to pronounce in a certain way, otherwise we don't understand what you're saying. So if you say boost, that's something else than boost. It's boost, okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay, you want to boost Krishna consciousness. Increase, easier word. Boost is very technical, But anyway, we understand what you mean. So sadhu sangha is the best way. Then sangha sanjayate kama. Here Krishna says, in this way you develop a desire to attain me. So it's all a question of desire ultimately. What's the problem? We desire so many other things, not Krishna. Anything non-Krishna we like very much. Krishna, we like a little bit, sometime, once a week maybe. For Sunday for 10 minutes. I mean, it's like exactly it's not unusual. People go to church once a week for just that ceremony, the mass, like here we do Artik, it's very similar. So people come many times to the temple once a week for Artik and prasadam. In the church you get your oblation or whatever. So that's it. Then for the rest of the week, I do all kinds of nonsense, and I come back on Sunday. My Lord, please forgive me. Be patient with me. I want to boost, but I don't know how to do it. I go bust trying to boost. That may happen. So, no, good association. Instead of being with people who are very materialistic, then during the week you also go into that direction. They invite you to eat this and to drink that and to do this and that, and it has nothing to do with Krishna. But if you're around with devotees, then there's a good chance that, whatever you will be doing, it has a connection with Krishna. So sadhu sangha is definitely a big booster. And if you don't have, then you have to do whatever you can. Sadhu sangha is not limited to actually being in a physical presence. Very important to understand. Reading Srila Prabhupada's books, we have sadhu sangha, we have sangha with Srila Prabhupada. Hearing his lectures, or other devotees' lectures, hearing kirtan, And then, yes, even we can go on the internet and, there's so many opportunities to even participate in Arctic when we're not able to go to the temple. So to boost is not so difficult. We just have to do it. There's so many things nowadays at our disposal. In the past, they didn't have this. Maybe, let's see, even less than 100 years ago. It was more, in one sense, not more difficult because the atmosphere was not so contaminated. So Krishna is very kind. It's so contaminated, so simultaneously you get certain tools to boost, even within this very difficult atmosphere. Before it was not necessary, therefore it didn't exist. No TV, no internet, no cell phones. Yeah, but still you can, But there were other things, but not so heavily contaminated like nowadays. All right, anything else?
Maharaj, how you came in contact with Srila Prabhupada?
Oh my God, don't ask me this. You read my book and it's all there. It's 50 years ago almost. How do I remember? I can't remember anything. I was young and I was searching. And then Krishna brings you in contact with the devotees. That's all, how it happens. Very simple thing. He's in the heart. If he sees somebody wants to come to him, although he doesn't know who he is, he'll make the arrangement. That's how it happens. We are fortunate. How did you come in contact? Tell me your life story, and that will take another hour. Anyway, we all have our story, and they're all very similar. Because all the living entities have a relationship with Krishna. If he sees somebody is interested, to know who am I, Keami, what is the world, what is the origin, is there any supreme something, I don't know what it is. Krishna sees, and he said, okay, I'll put you in contact. Then you decide, you like it, you don't like it. So I liked it. Okay. Anything else? The ladies' side, they are silent. They don't need to ask. They know. Yeah, their experience.
If I get half an hour free time, should I invest that time in hearing or reading?
Why not?
What should be the priority, hearing or reading?
Hearing and reading is the same. No? It's actually the same. Now because whatever is here written was spoken. And if it's not loudly spoken, it's spoken in the mind, and then the author writes it down. But actually Prabhupada spoke his books, and then they were transcribed. Now we can read them out loud, and the sound comes again. So it's hearing. Now whether you hear in your mind by reading, or you can even read to yourself with your voice, so it goes through the ear, it doesn't matter. Reading is hearing. And if you read, you do chanting at the same time, hearing and chanting. So it's perfect. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Then you can remember. And that's all we have to do. Yes. Okay, so your last chance. Anybody wants to raise their hand? Do it now. Otherwise, thank you.
Prabhuji, sometimes we chant Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Then we just feel mind was deviate.
Mind what?
Deviate.
The mind deviates, of course. That's the nature. It's like a dog. Yes. So you have to have it on a leash. You may go for 2 meters, and then you go. What do you want? You have to train it, actually. It's like even a dog, it's a good example. If they're untrained, or anything, even children, if they're untrained, you don't never educate them, they become like animals. Completely uncontrollable. So the mind, if you don't, by practice, has to be trained. It's your greatest enemy. You can read in Bhagavad Gita, I don't have to explain it, 6th chapter, verses 34, 35, 36, when Arjuna complains and he says, I can't do this, I can't think like you say, because the mind is crazy, like not doing what I want to do. So Krishna said, yes, you're right. But by abhyasena, by practice, and vairagena, by detachment, it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. You just have to apply the process. So, hearing and chanting is always good. That keeps the mind a little bit locked up between, the sound of the holy name. And even though it may go away, then you continue and take it back. Be patient. So, yeah. Utsahan, nishchayatarya. You have to be enthusiastic. You want to do it. You'll be determined, patient, and everything will come. Like a pregnancy. You want to have the child immediately. Just married yesterday. Now I want to have a child. I have a husband. Why don't I have a child tomorrow? And you have to wait. You may not like it, but it takes at least 9 months, maybe more. What can you do? That's the process, right? You have to be patient. So many times our patience may be tested. We become impatient. No, but we should be determined with our practice. And then it's a matter of time. It's guaranteed. It's a science. It's guaranteed. If we are sincere and we're hearing and chanting sincerely, Krishna's in the heart. He knows and he helps. Vidunuti surit satam. He's the friend of the truthful devotee. He's not just sitting there and doing nothing. If he sees you want to come to him, you want to remember him, you want to develop your love for him, he's the first one to help you. So that's all that's necessary. So, good news. Yeah, it's easy. Relatively speaking, it's not difficult.
I have a big question.
Okay.
Yeah. Just want to check, we talked about purification of our senses, mind and intelligence, and our false ego. But once we get purified, do we have these attributes like a pure soul will have a mind and intelligence and spiritual senses? And
I hope so. Otherwise, what is it? Of course. Actually, that's the nature of the soul. What we now have as mind and intelligence and senses, it's just a perverted reflection. It's, contaminated. There is a pure mind and a pure intelligence and pure senses, obviously. Because we are persons. A person person is a person. That's what a person is. Has a personality, has senses, has a mind, has desires, has action. It's not just, we are not some impersonal something floating around in some who knows what. No. That's Mayavadi philosophy. Yes, there is the pure mind. So, good news also. We are what we are now. Prabhupada said, if you want to know how Krishna is, you study yourself, because we are little parts and parcels. So whatever traits of personality and relationships we may have, this is all just a reflection. So the original pure state of everything is in the spiritual world. You can see it. You can speak with Krishna face to face. You can play together. You can eat together. You will also eat. Don't ask me what happens when you eat the food in the digestion, whether there's spiritual stool. Prabhupada said, when you get there, you'll know. We don't have to speculate. But the point is that all these activities we have here, they are there, and better even. Because sometimes, because there's no knowledge, people are not very much interested in spiritual life. Because they think, if you think about other traditions, what you're going to do eternally. Just sit in front of God and pray, for example. And what is God doing all day long? I'd rather be in this world, and I have can go to the cinema, I can go to a football play, and I can go with my friends and have a good time and play golf. Why should I be just sitting somewhere and just looking at this God with a big beard? It's very boring. They have no information. No. There's all kinds of activities and play and diversion and enjoyment, much better than here. That is important to know. So we don't think, well, actually I would rather stay here. Huh? It's much better than, I don't know what it's going to be like there. Maybe all day we don't do anything. No, we know there's so many pastimes. So that's a very important part. So whatever whatever we have now, it's there also, but in a different type of existence.
I have a question. Like in this material world, we people are kind of ambitious. Right from our childhood, we are taught that go ahead in your life. So we do have that kind of thing in us. So what is the parallel to ambition in the spiritual world?
We want to serve Krishna more and more.
Okay.
And please him more and more. There may be even competition, not just ambition. Here's also competition. You want to please more than next to you, the other devotee, but not with malice. You become inspired. Somebody is observing, oh, so nicely, and now I also want to do this. So, same thing, but different quality.
So there's no jealousy kind of thing there, right? Just like
It's not the same as here. It looks like, but it's transcendental. It gives pleasure to Krishna. That's what counts. Even the so-called jealousy maybe looks like, but it's not like that. There's no malice that you want to harm somebody. If you're jealous, you rather want to bring the person down, and you want to be on top. That's not like that. I hope so. That's what I was told. Yes, we have to also have faith in the acharyas. They tell us how things are in the description in Shastra. Otherwise, as Krishna says, the doubtful soul, there's no happiness in this life and in the next. And then, who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's not a very good consciousness. You can doubt anything. But we believe in so many things. The science tells us how the body works. There's books, biology. How do we know? I don't know. Maybe it's all fake, Somebody designed in Photoshop how the stomach is. I don't know. They say they have a picture. Who knows? So if you always, I don't know. Who knows? Then, so anyway. So I hope wish you all the best. You continue your practice, and if Krishna willing, we can speak more next year. If you have some more questions, just note it down and you come back with it within 12 months. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, T.C. Gaurnitai Radha Parthasarthi and Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.